Now on Denver 7 News, a man is shot and killed during a robbery in Commerce City. The latest on the search for the 3 suspects.
Law enforcement agencies across the country are dealing with staff shortages. How departments are now switching up recruiting and retention tactics to address this. And the Hispanic population is the least insured in our country. The fear is keeping some from getting that health coverage, and the new solutions that are expanding to change this.
Plus, a project years in the making is finally finished. We're giving you an inside look at Fort Collins' new and improved Linden Street. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jessica Porter. Commerce City Police are looking for 3 men who they say shot and killed a man during a robbery. This happened around 2 this morning at a home off Linden Street and 54th Avenue. Detectives say the 3 men confronted 2 men outside of the house. After shooting and killing one of the men, the suspects then stole their 2003 Chevy Silverado truck. It's maroon colored with Colorado plates and a modified lift kit. If you have any information, call police. Inglewood police shot and killed a man while investigating a domestic disturbance. This happened around 8 last night at a home on South Grove Street and West Bellevue Drive. Police say that someone in the house shot at responding officers who returned fire, killing a 22-year-old man. It's unclear right now how or even if that man was involved in the shooting. Officers also arrested a man, 29-year-old Philip Blankenship, for first-degree murder. Jordan Waddy, the man that Denver police officers shot last Sunday, along with 6 other bystanders, will appear in court tomorrow. He's facing charges for menacing and violating his parole by allegedly having a gun. Denver police claim Waddy flashed a gun at 3 officers, prompting them to shoot him. He, along with 6 innocent bystanders, were injured. Prosecutors said last week that Waddy never fired a shot. For some Marshall Fire victims, their homes may look fine on the outside, but inside it's a completely different story. The Svoboda Rini family moved into their dream home in Superior less than 2 years ago. It was one of the few homes in the neighborhood that survived the fire, but once they returned to inspect it, they realized that it had heavy smoke damage.
The smoke caused the worst damage, right? The visible damage is, we first saw the house after the fire, we were like, oh, it's not that bad. Get some new windows, some new siding, clean up the yard. But it really is completely invisible. You can smell it when you go in the house. Your eyes start to burn.
It is definitely unhealthy, and the restoration company working on the house says they have to work in full PPE gear because the smoke damage is extremely toxic. And the family has no idea if and even when they can return home. A project years in the making is finally ready in Fort Collins. Linden Street is set to open back up in less than 2 weeks on August 5th. The entire area has been redesigned with brick paving, more seating, and wider patios so restaurants and shops can host more outdoor dining and special events. The 1-block stretch links 2 critical shopping areas, Old Town and the up-and-coming River District. Getting here hasn't been easy. Businesses have endured roughly 2 years of construction, including a full street closure for the past 5 months.
It's just been a long process. I'm really anxious for it to be over. So I'm hoping it does bring some more business and some new life and revitalizes it.
I've seen the design plans. I think it's going to look awesome once they're done. It's just the process that's been the problem.
The street will be open to 2-way traffic once it is complete. It will also have parallel parking, and the city will have the flexibility to close or partially close the street for special events. A temporary victory for those wanting to save the building that housed a beloved restaurant for decades. The family who owned Pobre Pancho's in Fort Collins sold to a longtime customer earlier in the pandemic. But the new owner permanently closed its doors in March. They wanted to sell it to Raising Cane's, but the original owners pushed to get building landmark status. A commission upheld its eligibility last week, frustrating the new owners.
They put over $100,000 into the restaurant to make it survive, and it just didn't work. So now they can't get out from under it.
This building being here is more important than ever because people have forgotten the history of the United States, the history of even our town, the community, the Latino community.
The new owner can still appeal the landmark decision to the city council.
Economists are predicting another big interest rate hike from the Federal Reserve this week. We could see a 0.75% increase on Wednesday for the second time. That would put the Fed's benchmark rate at the highest since 2018. On Thursday, the Commerce Department will release numbers on economic growth, which did shrink in the first quarter of the year. And if there are two negative readings in a row, that is informally considered a recession. Asian American and Pacific Islander-owned businesses were some of the hardest hit by the pandemic. But a new grant program is providing some hope for recovery. Cash grants ranging from $10,000 to $25,000 are now available for AAPI business owners. Businesses that launched during the pandemic and ones that were already established are eligible.
AAPIs and other minority businesses face economic barriers that too often challenging their ability to thrive.
Chi-Ling Tong is one of the people behind the program. She says while loans were offered to small businesses through the Paycheck Protection Program, many Asian American owners didn't see that money.
Because they did not think they qualified or they were unaware the opportunities existed.
Access to money isn't the only hurdle that these businesses are facing. She says the recent surge in anti-Asian hate and violence is also threatening their survival.
Last year, about 11,000 cases, and 40% happened in the business places.
She says the hopes the grants will help owners move past the pandemic and thrive. And if you're interested, you can go to either reimaginemainstreet.org or nationalace.org. The deadline to apply is tomorrow. The news feed starts with Ukraine now starting to ship grain this week. It is part of a deal that was brokered by the UN to help food supply around the world impacted by the conflict with Russia. Ukraine, a major grain producer, and has not been able to move grain from its ports since Russia invaded. Jury selection starting today in the defamation case against conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. The trial will determine just how much Jones will pay the parents of victims of the Sandy Hook shooting. Jones claimed the shooting was a hoax. Supreme Court justice is a job you get for life, but the majority of Americans don't want it to be that way anymore. There's a new poll from the Associated Press that found 2 in 3 Americans favor term limits for justices, and the majority of Americans also answered they barely have any confidence in the court anymore. The World Health Organization has declared monkeypox a public health emergency. But the Biden administration is still discussing whether to treat it as one here in the United States. The CDC has confirmed more than 2,800 monkeypox cases here. That's 10 times higher than a month ago. Infectious disease doctors are pushing for more action with reports that supplies to treat the disease are not meeting demand in some areas. Some police departments are down hundreds of officers right now. The top things that others are finding are keeping people on the force.
And coming up, the weekend rain causing more flooding in Larimer County. Why people living near the burn scars say they were well prepared. Next.